Welcome to our week 6 lecture. This week we're talking about web design, and when we design websites, we have to take into account how the user is going to interact with the website. So we'll also cover just some really basic ideas about interaction design. So I want you to think about the design that we've talked about so far. So we talked about designing instructional text, and we said things like left align long paragraphs of text, or use a conversational tone, or use bullet lists. And then we talked about visual design and graphics and color, and we said use complementary colors, or be careful that your colors don't, let me rephrase that, use colors that colorblind people can differentiate, I guess is what I'm going for then. So those are design principles. They give us suggestions as to what we can do to make effective designs. So when you think about designing a website, including like the different buttons you put on to click on and the menus, what principles do you think would apply? See if you can come up with 2 design principles that you think are going to be part of website and interaction design principles. Okay, so really this all becomes pretty straightforward. Ultimately, we want to create something that's easy to use, and that means it's clear, it's simple, and it's consistent. Just like with text, we wanted the text to be really clear, easy to understand, consistent headings. Same thing with images, consistent color, high quality graphics that are easy to understand, that enhance the learning. Exact same thing with web designs, especially when we're creating a website to support learning. So the types of design decisions we make when we create websites and user interactions come down to these dimensions. These are dimensions of interaction design. That's what the IxD stands for, is interaction design. And this is by Gilligan Crampton Smith, did the first 4, and then Kevin Silver came along and added number 5. Sorry, I should have turned off my webcam. I'll turn it off now. The first dimension is just words, which we've talked about, right? And then visual representations, we've also talked about. This one, physical objects in space, this is unique to interaction design because we actually are interacting with the keyboard, with the mouse, with touch. Time relates to the audio and video that we talked about just a little bit last week. We just kind of got our feet wet with it. We're going to keep working on that. And then behavior has to do with how all these elements fit together, what the dimensions afford, what actions we can complete by combining these other elements. So those are the pieces that we're using to make our design decisions in interaction design. So it's always useful to look at what's wrong before we look at what's right. This is the classic elevator, like that is not clear or easier to use or consistent, right? This is the doors. I always like pictures of doors because especially this one says pull, but you can't pull it at all, right? How do you understand that? I don't know. This website, it's just really hard to read the text. It makes it very difficult to understand what to do. And this is just not very serene. Just the different colors and shades and fonts, and it just is overwhelming and not very clear. It doesn't really help you relax and be one with yourself. So I have a challenge for you. I want you to go and see if you can find the worst website on the internet. Now, I know some of you are just going to go and Google what's the worst website or worst website. Try to find something that no one else is going to find. So see if you can find something unique. Put the URL, and I'm going to highlight some of my favorite worst website designs in my next feedback video. So get ready for that. All right, so ultimately, when a user comes to your website or to an app, they need to know what to do. They need to know what will happen when they do that thing, and they need to know how to fix any errors that come up. So I have to say, okay, what should I do? When I do that, what do I think is going to happen? And then if there's an error, how do I fix that? So it comes down to some key questions about interaction design. So one is, how can I interact? So we've gotten buttons, we've got radio buttons, drop-down lists, pretty straightforward. That's how we can put information in. The next question is, what will happen when I click this? We want to make sure that when someone clicks a button, they can predict what's going to happen when they click it. So for example, this button right here is very clear that says create your store. So I know that when I click that, that's what's going to happen. I shared this in the Good and Bad Design forum. This is actually the Zoom Safe Driving Mode app that I was using when I was on the road the other day for a meeting. And you'd think that this would be good design because tap to speak is okay, if I touch in this circle, if I tap there, it's going to unmute me so that I can speak. That would be really good design. The problem with this is when you click outside of the circle, it also unmutes. So actually that is not very good design. But the main concept is I want to know what's going to happen when I do something. I should be able to predict that. This next one, I need to know if I make a mistake, I need to know what it is. If you've ever just had something not work and not being able to figure out what you did wrong, it's incredibly frustrating. So here's some different types of error alerts. This is, a very clear unsupported image type. Okay, so I know it's an unsupported image. If I want more details, I might go Google it. But that gives me very clear reason why something is not working. And that can really help the user a lot. Another thing is knowing that it's doing something. So that's why we have these progress bars and such. Sometimes icons will change colors and such after you click them. There's actually been some studies on the ideal way to do these type of progress bars and stuff to keep people patient and focused. So maybe I'll share there's a podcast about it. Maybe I'll share that with you. But again, it's keeping the user in mind and helping them to know what's happening. Then just making sure that the elements are easy to interact with. So right here, the buttons are so small and the X is so small that it's hard to interact with. So they needed to do a bigger size, especially when people are using their finger to click things. It's important to have the right size of buttons. It goes back to the same principle of being clear and easy to understand and consistent and simple. And then here's another just overall doing things on the website that make it easy to understand. So you can see here, this right here are called breadcrumbs. Our Moodle uses this a lot, where you can see exactly where you are in the program, in the website. Here, there's these tooltips. When you mouse over and you get a tooltip like this, that can be really useful for providing the user more information without cluttering the user interface. And then just something simple like this helps people know where they are on the web page and what they're doing. Now, the nice thing is that most of the tools that you'll be using for creating websites already have a lot of these elements built in. But it's important to just know why they're being used so you know when it's appropriate to change them and when it's not, so that your website can be user-friendly and support learning. So that's part one. Part two, I'll show you a few more examples.